Hello everybody! So here's Lynette Lear again, and I'm here to talk to you about how to extrovert your feeling chapter 2. So this is my second video of the series Personal Growth, and in the first chapter we talked about how to use extrovert feeling to express emotions, whereas in this chapter we're going to talk about how to use extrovert feeling to place others in front of yourself. So extrovert feeling has this characteristic of putting others in front of yourself. Extrovert feeling dominant types are going to be the types that go out of their way to do things for others and that tend to forget about themselves. Sorry, I'm having cat issues. Extrovert feeling dominant types, I was saying, are going to be those people who go out of their way to do things for others and they tend to forget about themselves. That's because extrovert feeling dominants are introvert feeling ignoring. So they tend to put everybody else's needs in front of on top of their agenda and completely forget about their own needs. So piece of advice before starting with how to FE, this is a piece of advice for my ESFJs and ENFJs. You will need to learn to slow down a little bit and focus on your personal needs and learn to take care about yourselves too, because after all, you're also a human being and you also deserve attention. So back on how to extrovert feeling, we are now going to talk about how to place others in front of yourself. So the first piece of advice that I'm going to give you is to go look for Dale Carnegie and How to Make Friends or something on that line. It's a book written by this guy, Dale Carnegie, that actually explains how to ingratiate people. That's what this trait of extrovert feeling is about. It's not about deep bounds. It's a little bit Enneagram 2-ish in a sense, because it's a way to do something for others to obtain their love and appreciation. So that's the trait of extrovert feeling we're going to talk about right now. Taken from Dale Carnegie book, for example, we can write an application oriented towards the company we're going to work for. In that case, we're going to write something on the line of, Dear company XYZ, I've been knowing about your company for ages, and I think that your company is absolutely awesome for this and this and this. I think that your politics of going after that kind of issue is extremely valuable for society for this and this reason. I think that the service that you're doing for the world is very valuable for these reasons, and I believe that my characteristic of such and such and such is can be an added value for your company. So that's why I'm here asking you to work for you. That's a way to use extrovert feeling to write an application letter. If you find Dale Carnegie's book, you're going to find more in-depth explanations about how to go in that specific realm. But you can also use extrovert feeling to make friends, or to simply ingratiate people, to spend a good time in an environment in which there is a negative emotional atmosphere. Personally, I am kind of horrified by negative emotional atmospheres. For example, when I find myself at a doctor's or at a veterinary, I try to change the emotional atmosphere as soon as I can, because for me it's extremely heavy to be in a negative emotional atmosphere. But let's talk about something a little bit more positive, because talking about sad stuff is not what I want to do. And let's talk about something a little bit positive. Let's take into account, for example, ISTPs and ESTPs, our extroverted sensors with strong TI. What do extroverted sensors with strong TI normally do? I'm thinking, for example, of my little brother who is constantly running up and down and doing weird stuff like going scuba diving and or running or going running or I don't know, My boyfriend, sometimes I think of him hanging from a branch of the tree, or jumping from tree to tree or something. They are the Tarzans of the MBTI, sort of. That's how I view them, more or less. They're constantly active and constantly doing something. This is an exaggeration, of course. Not all ISTP and not all ESTPs are actually physically active. I know an ESTP, for example, that is very active in a working environment, and he places all of his extrovert sensing in the working environment and then goes play soccer afterwards. Anyway, we're thinking about these TI users that are all activity and they're constantly in motion. Think about one of those running around in a park, jumping from branch to branch, from tree to tree, and doing that kind of stuff. And they suddenly decide, I want to make friends. I'm in this park. It's full of people. I want to make friends. How do you use extrovert feeling to do that? The way to use extrovert feeling to do that is to walk to the first person you find nice or you want to approach and ask them something about themselves. Simply that. Simply like that. Just ask them something about themselves. For example, you have a bunch of guys playing volleyball. Go there and ask them if they're playing because they belong to a team, or if it's just a hobby, or if they're just having good time out of the house. Ask them where they got their shirt. Anything goes until you talk about the other person. Think, for example, that you have someone running around with a skateboard. You can walk to them and ask them how long they've been skating, how long and how long they practice. You can ask anything until it is about the other person. So in the first video about how to use extrovert feeling, we learned about how to use extrovert feeling to talk about what interests you, what your personal interests are, and how to express your passion to others, and how to manifest your emotions to others, and how to make your tales look more alive. And in this video, we're instead talking about how to approach people and how to get in touch with people in a way that is people friendly. And the way is exactly this, to ask people stuff about them. So for one moment, forget about your business, forget about your personal strength in that specific sport. Forget about how good you are at that other thing that you rock about. Walk to someone and just ask about them. And show interest in the person. For example, if someone is going around skating and they look nice to you, ask them about skateboard just to start the conversation and to break the ice. And once you've broken the ice, just ask anything. For example, if they tell you they practice 2 hours a day, you can continue by going, is skateboard the only hobby you have, or do you also practice other sports? Then maybe they will mention, I don't know, basketball, and you are actually interested in basketball, and you can talk about ask them what their favorite team is, for example. And from there you can start a conversation in which at some point you can introduce yourself and start talking about yourself too. The best piece of advice from an extrovert feeling ego type is to wait to talk about yourself until the other person gives you the space to. Which means if you ask what is your favorite team, wait for them to ask you back what yours is. This is placing the other person's need and the other person's interests in front of yourself. If you think about it, people are not really interested in what your whereabouts are until they get to know you. So how do you make friends ingratiating people towards you? Or how do you make a potentially boring environment lively? You ask people to talk about themselves. Last year, for example, I was sitting at the vet. I was having my cat was having epilepsy. He's now feeling good and he's not even taking medicine, so probably it was a temporary thing. Anyway, he was having epilepsy, so we were sitting at the vet and we were waiting to talk to the doctor. and the room was full with dogs and cats. And I was feeling like everybody was really, really sad and depressed, worried, and of course, worried about their animals. So I started asking people about their pets. And when you start asking someone about their pets, they're going to start talking about their pets in their best state. He normally does this and this. He runs up and down the house, and suddenly started feeling sad. So I don't know what is wrong with him. Oh, how long does he do that? How long has he been playing with that thing? My cat does this thing, and what does your dog do, Mister down there? And people are going to intervene and just talk about their animals, and it's going to start being a positive environment. Because after a while, people start talking about positive things instead of talking about negativity. So that's one way to ingratiate people and to make people positive towards you, and a way to use extrovert feeling to place others in front of yourself. So extrovert feeling ego types have a tendency to go out of their way to place everybody else's needs in front of themselves, and they actually tend to forget about their personal needs. Introvert thinking types instead need to learn how to do that. So this is a piece of advice from an INFJ on how to use extrovert feeling to place everybody else in front of you, and how to use it in a positive and fruitful way to make friends. This is everything I have about the matter. I hope it helped, and I talk to you soon. Bye.